Isabel Oakeshott is with us, Talks International editor. Afternoon to you, Isabel. Never a dull day over there at Westminster. This one not entirely unexpected. If you had bothered to read the room over the last couple of years, as it were, he was always breathing down Kemi's neck despite many denials that, no, I don't want the big job. He's now gone. Apparently he was going to walk anyway, and the smart money says he was going to walk right over to Reform HQ. Now, you've got an inside ear on this one, I'm sure, Isabel. I wouldn't like you to, in any way, as a journalist, breach your sources. But is that where he's going to end up?
Well, I would be very surprised if he didn't come to Reform. The truth is that he, I think, has been flirting with defecting to Reform for a very long time, but it's not an easy thing for any sitting MP to do. It's an awful lot easier for example, someone like Nadhim Zahawi, who is no longer an MP, to defect to Reform, because he doesn't have to go into the Commons every day and face the music with his erstwhile colleagues. It's a very, very uncomfortable thing to do, to cross the floor. And because there have been, in a way, so many defections in recent months, we forget how unusual that actually is in a broader sweep of political history. It's really very unusual for MPs to switch party. And it's a very, very big deal. You've also got to cope with what the reaction is locally in your constituency. And Robert Jenrick was not one of those Tory MPs that looked certain to lose his seat to Reform. You know, he's got a strong local following, and I'm sure that, you know, I haven't been to his constituency, I haven't spoken to people there, but there may well be quite divided opinion in his own patch as to whether he's done the right thing or not. I am certain that the timing of this was not intended as what happened today. For a start, Nigel Farage is in Scotland announcing Reform's new Scottish leader. And I'm sure that Nigel wouldn't have chosen to be up there if all of this was somehow choreographed. It is, in a sense, as it looks, that Kemi Badenoch has found out that this was on the cards and has basically pressed the nuclear button. And I think she's right that she sort of had to. You know, the only other option for her would have been to try to negotiate with Jenrick. But I don't, you know, I'm not sure what she could have given him that would have made the difference. You know, ultimately, they're not entirely ideologically aligned. That's very true. But of course, to many Tories, I said a moment ago, Isabel, he was the reason some of those Tories hung on to their Conservative Party membership or their voting intentions, because they felt that, look, you know, Kemi was never seen as some lily-livered wet of the Tory party, but Jenrick in particular was certainly not that. He can claim he resigned as immigration minister specifically because he disagreed with the Conservative immigration policy. So he did that. He's ticking all of those boxes. So from one perspective, he was exactly what the Tory party needed. Oh, without a shadow of a doubt. The problem is that the parliamentary party is very divided between those that are ideologically more attuned with Reform and Tory MPs that really should be part of the Liberal Democrat Party. I would describe Jenrick without hesitation as by far and away the most impressive Conservative MP, and I'd put him ahead of Kemi Badenoch in that regard. I think that he, having lost out on the leadership challenge to her, he then set about, so far from retreating, he set about making himself the most impressive and high-profile Conservative. And he was very energetic in the way that he went about it. You know, we can probably, a lot of our listeners will be mindful, will remember those sort of stunts that he did, going to tube stations, confronting ticket dodgers. He went up to a big dodgy car boot sale where he called out the amount of stolen tools. This is imaginative opposition, and it wasn't just stunts for social media. You know, he's been very, very proactive, calling out the government, using the mechanisms that are available to him as a parliamentarian, you know, to challenge the Attorney General. He's been very, very robust on the Chagos Islands and so on. So I think that he is a huge loss. to Kemi coming just at a time when people are beginning to say, whoa, look, Kemi's actually doing really well, isn't she? That said, she's sort of lent into it, as it were. She's sort of grabbed the bull by the horns and tried to seize a bit of a victory out of the jaws of defeat there by taking that bold initiative. And the consequence, if I can get a little bit granular here, for Jenrick is that he is now an independent. His technical status as of whatever time we're at, 4 minutes to 2 o'clock, is that he sits as an independent. Now that really reduces his negotiating position with reform. I don't know what concessions he might have extracted, what promises. You know, Nigel Farage is not that kind of operator. He doesn't promise things in return for defections. But the fact that Kemi has pulled the rug from under him does weaken his negotiating position. So the big question now at this moment is, does Nigel Farage accept Jenrick right now? And that's all part of the kill off the Tory strategy, or does Nigel Farage just let him wait a little bit, just to see and just to demonstrate to people that you don't just get to saunter into his party?
Indeed. On that point, Isabel, thank you. Great point to finish on as well. Isabel Oakeshott, she's Talks International editor. Thank you to her.